Hello and welcome to Beyond the Mirror podcast. Today is a very special day, a Valentine's Day, and I have a very special guest, Anna Dobbies, editor of Aesthetic Medicine magazine and Aesthetic Medicine London. Welcome, Anna.
Lovely to be here and happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. Such a pleasure to have you, and I never thought I will spend a Valentine's Day with you.
No, what a treat.
What an honor, indeed.
Our roses.
Red roses.
Red roses.
You dress the part. I don't feel so bad.
I can do the red and pink for both of us. You know I can't resist a bit of pink. It's my favourite colour.
You're always very bright. I absolutely love this. I think your outfit probably reflects your personality. I will find out about this today.
You're going to find out about all the darkness inside me that's hidden by the bright colours. No, I do love a bit of... I think if you dress in colours, it makes you feel happy. It's the dopamine thing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I'm all for what makes us feel better. And in fact, that is what is about our podcast and movement Beyond the Mirror, because it's not just reflection, it's something that lie much deeper inside. Exactly.
Which is what aesthetic medicine is all about as well, isn't it? Because it's all very well and good looking nice on the outside, but if you haven't invested in your wellness and your lifestyle, then it won't necessarily look lovely for ages. You've got to kind of have a full inside-outside approach, I think.
Absolutely, I'm 100% agree with that. And I think our viewers and listeners will find so many important and valuable information from you, because you work with a wide range of people in the industry. You see the industry from the different angles. So I'm really looking forward to listen to your answers.
Thank you. I mean, I can't say that I'm necessarily going to know the right thing to say. I'll probably say the wrong things, but that's very sweet of you. Thank you.
I don't think that there is such things right and wrong.
You're right.
It's about finding different people's perspective and opinions.
So true.
So Anna, can you please tell us about your career? So how, and your background, how did you start as a journalist?
Of course. So I kind of fell into journalism and certainly fell into aesthetic medicine. So my school, I guess, I was always quite creative. I think that won't shock anyone, particularly from the way I dress. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a career point of view. So I ended up studying biology at university. But I felt like I probably wasn't destined to work in a lab, which is the main outcome, I think, from a lot of biologists at uni. So I then started kind of investigating different career options in the media field. I actually started off in sales, realised I was really bad at it and never went back to sales after that first step. But it allowed me to break into publishing, and then early on I had a internship with BBC Suffolk for a few years where I was a music journalist, and I then took my NCTJ, which is the journalism qualification. So I've kind of fallen upwards is how I like to think of it. Like each thing might not be the exact right thing, but then it led me somewhere else. I've been a trade journalist for several years. Before this, I actually worked for another healthcare publication. And then when I saw the aesthetic medicine job come up, I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. Obviously, as a woman, anything to do with the beauty industry sounds interesting. Yeah. Although it wasn't something I'd ever gone out my way to work in. And I, at the time, knew nothing about aesthetic medicine, which you can probably tell from, if you look back when I first started in the job, I read up on it, but I'd never had a treatment done. I only really knew what a consumer would know, or maybe less than a lot of them, because they are very well informed generally. So it's been, every day's been a learning day for me to find out more and more about this sector. And there's always something new to find out. So I'm really happy where I am to have found such a lovely, interesting group of people, as there are in aesthetics. Everyone's welcomed me and everyone will help me when I don't know something. So it's been really interesting.
I'm sure you learned quite a lot already.
Every day is a learning
Yeah,
day, for sure.
it's such a fascinating industry, and I think sometimes it has very controversial opinions. So, what your friends and family have thought when you decided to take a job in aesthetic industry? What was their opinion on that? Was they critical? Was they supportive?
So when I first got this job, it was actually, I was interviewing for 2 different roles. And it was, you never know which one's going to be the right one, but I went for this one because I felt drawn to it. And I remember at the time, the other one was in a dentistry magazine. And I remember a lot of people were saying, oh, that's probably more, good sort of thing. There's this feeling that aesthetics isn't good sometimes from the outside world, that it's not, for the best, it's vain. There's that sort of preconception sometimes a little bit. And I remember at the time I got teased by a few of my friends' boyfriends, like, oh, it's all about toxins and fillers, that side of it, that they kind of thought was a bit flippant and not really worth their time, kind. And then I think for me, I was really intrigued by the fact that the ethical sides of it, that the things it can do for people who've got disfigurements or, lifelong concerns, that it can really improve people's mental health. But also I was really interested in kind of the misconceptions that people were saying about, tourism, aesthetic tourism, travelling abroad. You sometimes, you hear these horror stories and people think that reflects the entire sector, and it just doesn't. It's a few bad eggs that out there that can really tar people. And I do think that the general media perception can be very biased. And again, it's that kind of...
I think they tend to publish the stories that make the headlines of the news, and I think horrifying stories tend to attract more attention than positive stories, sadly. But I'm a dentist by background, so it was interesting to know that you have been had a choice between dentistry and aesthetic, and I had this choice to make. I'm still practicing dentistry half a session a week, but yes, my heart and my full career lies within aesthetic. And sometimes people say, why don't you stick to the teeth? And I would say it's probably the main reason is the change that you're able to make to your patient. And I do cosmetic dentistry, and if I would put on a scale the change that we can make to the face, increase your confidence way by far in comparison to the change that we sometimes can make with dentistry. Both very important.
Oh yes.
But I think face is probably has much bigger impact. But you can't create beautiful face without
beautiful teeth. No, exactly.
So it's work hands in hands.
And I think people do actually sometimes forget how important it is. I haven't got good teeth, so I don't look too closely. I had braces when I was younger, but my bottom row are very crowded. But I find the impact of teeth and the jaw on people's faces is fascinating. Because I didn't realise I've got a underbite, is it? So it's a small lower jaw.
Overbite.
Overbite, yes, exactly, like a Simpsons character, which means that you're more prone to a double chin. But everything has to be balanced, doesn't it? It's all about facial balance. And I think that's just fascinating.
Absolutely.
But also, I think it's really important to celebrate everyone's unique beauty.
100%. 100%.
There's ways to, emphasise things. It's all art at the end of the day, to some extent, isn't it?
100%.
And science.
Yes, it's a combination. So, Anna, what do you like the most about your job? I think you mentioned already a lot about impact and satisfaction, but what is your favorite part?
Do you know what? I just think that I've been really welcomed into this sector with open arms. I find the people fascinating, that I deal interesting, educated, ethical, generally, obviously, like I said, you get the odd person that isn't, I guess, but in general, I think that most people I speak to have that patient's well-being at the heart of what they're doing, and they're kind, caring people who are looking to improve people's lives, and I find that a really worthwhile thing to, so I really enjoy talking to people, finding out what they're doing, finding out what they're passionate about, because everyone is so passionate as well about what they're doing. They love it. They've picked to do aesthetics because they love it, and they really care. And I think that makes you care as well.
They do say if you find what you love, you don't work a day in your life. So,
Exactly.
And in aesthetic, I think we do have a lot of individuals who are absolutely passionate about their job.
Nobody is doing a 9 to 5. Nobody you meet is doing a 9 to 5. They are living and breathing
Absolutely.
the sector that I've met, and I think that's really excellent, and it makes you feel positive about your job. Obviously, there's always like print deadlines, which are a little bit of a downer on the day sometimes. You know, there's the practicalities of getting a magazine to exist that can sometimes be a bit humdrum, but no, it's a great sector. The people are amazing.
Oh, you're very right about point. No one works 9 to 5. Yesterday, I walked out of the clinic 8:15 in the evening.
Exactly.
And I started at 9 o'clock. So yeah,
9 till 8. There you
9
go.
till 8, exactly.
That's not a Dolly Parton song yet.
And do you have cosmetic treatments, Anna?
Yes, I guess that's my other benefit of working in this sector. Because as I say, before I joined, I'd never had anything done. I'd had microblading on my eyebrows. That was the example I gave in my interview when I said I'm interested in the sector. Since then, I've dabbled in quite a lot of different treatments with mixed outcomes. Some of them have worked for me. Some of them have had less of an impact. But I think that's the thing. Not every treatment works for every person. But yes, I've had a few things done, and I'm sure there's some other things I'll have done going forward.
Anna, can you please tell me what is your favorite treatment or two?
Well, I have several favourite treatments, but I think the most important thing when you think about a treatment is really the practitioner, because I think, you know, it's like saying which is your favourite paint as opposed to which is your favourite artist to some extent. You know, one treatment might be amazing by one practitioner, but less so from another. So my personal favourite outcomes from treatments have been, I had some nose filler done by Dr. Motox, which I thought was amazing. I've had some treatment to my chin and some treatments to my forehead. But I think if I hadn't gone to such a great practitioner for those treatments, would it have had such a good outcome? And I think that's something people often overlook, the importance of the person behind the brush.
Oh, absolutely. I think that is such an important point that you brought up, and which leads me to the next question. What do you think patients should look when they're looking for the practitioner? Because some people often guided by price or might see a special deal on social media. So what is your opinion working in the industry, how to find the right practitioner and most importantly to be safe?
Do you know what? I think it's a really hard question because I've been very lucky to be guided to wonderful practitioners. I haven't found them myself. But what I would say is that I think that you have to trust testimonials, you have to trust patient, friends and family who would make recommendations. Certainly, price is not the most important factor. At the end of the day, although some treatments aren't permanent, if you're wanting to have a treatment done, you want a certain outcome, and you're not guaranteed to get that outcome if you cut costs. From what I've seen, I think cosmetic tourism is a terrible idea, and I know a lot of people go to that for price saving. But I also think, it's about looking at the people that are being recommended by great consumer publications like Tatler's Guide, Treatment's Guide. They can point you in the right direction, and don't try and cut corners, because if you cut corners with price, you'll cut corners with your treatment outcome at the end of the day. But obviously, different practitioners will suit different people. And I guess if you go to a practitioner and you have a great outcome, I would recommend that you continue going to them. If it's not the one for you, then you can always refer to the publications and find someone else who might work better for your features.
Oh, I think that is a really good advice, really good advice.
I think it's so important to have bespoke and customizable treatment.
100%, 100%. And aesthetic seems to be growing and changing, but what do you think? Has it reached its peak popularity, or is the market too saturated, or there is still a space for new practitioners?
I think since I've joined the sector, which was almost 3 years or 2.5 years ago, it's definitely grown. There's a lot more people doing things. There's a lot wider variety of treatments even in that time. But I don't see that anything slowing down, which is kind of surprising because there must be a limit. There must be. There's only so many people. There's only so many people with disposable income. But it just seems that we keep finding new treatments that fit for different people. And I don't see an end coming anytime soon.
I suppose that is a very positive news, but also I think a younger generation in millennial and people younger than that, they not necessarily want to age the same way how their parents did.
Exactly.
So they're looking at early intervention, preventative treatment, and I think that is what rejuvenation would also probably drives the change in aesthetic, because the solution not only injectables, there is so many more that aesthetics has to offer.
I think you're completely right, and I think that generally people say, oh, you shouldn't have treatments too young, but we're looking at it from a different way, and it's now about preventive, as you say. It's about making sure that you're ready for the future.
Yeah.
Not only with aesthetics, but also with the wellness and longevity side of things.
Absolutely.
And I think that very few people are going to be perfect as they genetically are, whatever that means, whether it's with their hormones, everyone has something that can be tweaked, and by having that insight from a younger age as to what that might be, what that could develop into, you can prevent things.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it's physical on the outside or on the inside.
So Anna, you see so many practitioners, clinics, you visit different clinics like you visited us today. Can you please tell me what differentiates those who are very successful and others who not so much? What do you think, where this point of difference is? What makes this difference?
I think it's hard to find an exact magic kind of solution to make you the most popular clinic. There's definitely a range of factors. I think obviously you've got to be a respected and well qualified practitioner as a first off. You have to have that reputation that backs up your experience. But I think that's a given. For the people that we talk to, we try to find people who are at the top of their game. Location can be a massive thing. Finding the right demographic for your clinic. I mean, in certain areas, you'll want to be attracting that younger rejuvenation age that we mentioned. In some areas, you have to look at what your demographic is. So I think that's finding your niche as well, because some places there's just too many competition. You need to find the thing that sets you apart. I think social media and using it ethically is very important, but also having a respected reach and being a recognisable face of authority. So, I know that people who, like yourself, running a podcast, people recognise you from that, and they'll want to know more about you and want to be treated by you because of that. I think having a public persona can really help for that, because it makes people feel that they trust you, and that will draw in an audience. But yeah, I don't think there's any one magic formula. I think it's about finding your own route.
And what advice would you give to the practitioners to build their patient numbers and patient database, especially to those who just at the beginning of their career?
I think that I would recommend reading a magazine like Aesthetic Medicine, because we have a great business section. I think people often forget that training as a medic doesn't necessarily make you a great business person.
That is
it's a totally different skill. But there are so many wonderful resources that are available to the sector. There's so many people that can advise, that can give you courses and education. And there's also people that you can employ to take some of the burden off you from the business side of it. I was talking the other day, there's a group of clinics that have come together to form a network in the UK. And that can be helpful, because then they can share their experiences and what's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them. So I always think networking is incredibly important. So going to events, I know that you go to a lot of events and you host them, and chatting with people, finding out what works for them, building connections, that always helps as well.
Well, that is excellent advice. Thank you very much. So, Anna, we're coming to the end of our incredible conversation today, which I'm truly enjoying. But this is a question that I ask every guest. So, do you agree that correctly performed aesthetic treatments has an impact on patient life that goes beyond the mirror?
100% I would agree. I think that you can't put a price on inner confidence, and it's amazing to see some of the changes, not only physically but emotionally, from patients that we've had as case studies in the magazine.
Thank you very much. I think this is a very powerful answer. And what one or maybe two things you wish you learned earlier in your career as a journalist or as an aesthetic journalist?
Definitely one thing I think is don't be afraid to be yourself a little bit. As you can see, I've rocked up today wearing the most insane outfit to a lot of people. But at the same time, I feel that by allowing myself to just be me, people that like it will find you. And this is across all careers. And, across practitioners, people will relate to you will find you, and you'll find the people that work with you. I think that when I first came into the working world, I was thinking this is how you get somewhere. This is who you have to be. And trying to be someone else never really works at the end of the day. You have to just go for who you are, assuming you're not a serial killer or something. Just lean into yourself. And I think that has helped in finding this job, finding something that I'm interested in, finding people that I find interesting. So that's one side of it, I would say. With regards to things I've learned in the sector, every day is a learning day. I think with aesthetics, you've got to be listening, talking to people. There's always new information out there. So just keep open and keep receptive to new information, new opinions, and new findings.
And the final question, where people could find more information about you and Aesthetic Medicine magazine?
Well, we've got our website, Aesthetic Med. We've also got, obviously, the paper copy of the magazine, which people can pick up, which is also available digitally. Social media, I've got my personal one too, Goldilocks Rocks. But yeah, and I'm always up for talking to people. If they have an opinion to share, if they have something they want to talk about, I'm always interested to hear what people are saying. So please reach out, and I would love to find out more about what you'd like to talk about.
Thank you very much, Anna. And I know from my personal experience, you're very approachable, very chatty person. So it has been a great pleasure to have this conversation with you today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely to chat to you too, and amazing to see your clinic.
Thank you.